Welcome to part 2 of the Onefeed setup guide. In the previous part 1, we went through the setup of creating a master feed, setting up the Shopify integration, getting everything loaded into the system. So now we've got the feed set up, we need to go and create some campaigns now. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create the link between our system and the ads account. So that's all the way up in here. So we're going to AdWords, account, and then settings. So this is going to effectively tell our Onefeed platform where to find your account, what ID to use, and basically create a link between the two. So we're going to call this test account. We've already got our ID number, which is from our test account over here. So we've already got our test account, which is this one over here. That test ID there. So we're going to copy our ID. We're going to paste it into here. So then it does ask for an AdWords email ID, but that is no longer required. So we'll just add just anything in here. It doesn't really matter. I just AdWords at Onefeed. So our Merchant Center ID. So this is the Merchant Center account that you've already got. Hopefully already you've linked your Merchant Center account to our CSS. Without that, we're not going to do much reporting, so we need to do that. So that there would be the numeric Merchant Center ID. And the most important part of this is that it needs to be correct. The campaigns themselves are attached to the Merchant Center ID. Once that's been set by a campaign, it cannot be changed. So it basically locks your ads campaigns to a Merchant Center ID. So click on that and go and save. Done. So that now means that when we go into our account over here, let's go back to our home screen again. So this now will populate. So we can now, previously these were all grayed out. You've got to go off the page and come back in again to see them. So the account is now set up. Let's go into our shopping campaign. So this here, as the name suggests, is going to create a shopping campaign. So let's go ahead and create a snowboards campaign in here. So we're going to go across over to here, going to add, of course call it snowboards. I always like to give it a name so you know if it's shopping or anything else. Priority, we're going to set it to high because it's going to be our main campaign. Let's use the shared budget. So we're going to get a budget in here. These are all just some test budgets we've created. So let's just call it snowboards. And let's give it, let's give it £25 a day. Save. Snowboards is the one we've selected there. Update. Default bid. Let's set it at 25p. We're going to go to locations. I would normally do something like England, Wales and Scotland if I can spell. Come on, brain. England, Wales, Scotland. That is mainly because, and I would like to set different bid adjustments depending on which location we're in. Mainly because Scotland obviously has all the Outer Hebrides and more remote areas, and so obviously that means that potentially it costs more money to get this product shipped up there. So I'd usually just use those 3 locations because I'd want to set some different bid adjustments depending on the performance of each one of them, and more importantly, when you have all 3 separated, it instantly gives the performance by those 3 locations. So that's useful to do it that way. You could just do United Kingdom if you wanted to, or whatever location you were in really. So you could obviously do France, Germany, whatever you want. So I'm just going to start with that one. Inventory filter. Let's filter the campaign. So at the moment we use custom label 0. So if you remember on our setup, custom label 0 was our the final end category. So that's snowboards. So I'm going to filter the campaign on snowboards. I'm not going to any negative keywords just yet. That's a URL, a default. I'm going to get rid of that because I would usually set a account level URL tracking template. So that's done now. So save that now. Add that as the ad group. There's our ad group. Save. If you wanted to, and you already had a campaign set up, you could actually go in here and copy the settings from it, though. But obviously we haven't got anything to copy at the moment, so it's a really quick way of effectively duplicating a campaign. So you just copies all the settings across, all the bids, everything else. So that's now done. There's our campaign. So that campaign now set up. It's manual bidding at the moment. So we're going to come on to that in a minute of how we can adjust that. So this is quite a simplistic way of creating the campaign. If you go into the campaign itself, at the moment we don't really have a lot of data to work on. So you've got the 4 different brands in here. So you could subdivide it by brand. Let's do it that way. So all our surfboards, sorry, snowboards even, not surfboards. these are all now separated by the brand, and then we could actually do this by item ID, but we'll come to that in a minute. So you've got the lower level of breaking down these campaigns in this way. So you can do what you want in here though. So you could use other like custom labels as well. I'm not sure we've got any custom labels set up. I can't remember what we'd set up on this one. While we're talking about custom labels, let's go about setting some additional custom labels in here. So that campaign at the moment is ready to go. It's on manual bidding. Obviously we can't do anything more than manual bidding at the moment because it doesn't have any history. What we can do now is we go into our master feed again. Let's do it this way. Let me move me, let's get me out of the way. Move me over there. So there is a benchmark data in here, or benchmark price. And the benchmark price is Google's approximation of other people selling the same products. It's not always the cheapest merchant selling those products. It will be a bit of a volume weighted average price. So ultimately the benchmark price is a good way of understanding whether you're competitive on products or not. So let's just pretend we've got some data in here. So let's just go and set this up. So we're going to go into here, we're going to our setup screen again. Let me move me over here again. Go next. At the moment, we're not using any benchmark data in here. As you can see, it's all empty. So just add a column. I'm going to call it price competitive. Right, you see these kicking in. There we go. Data type. I'll do that as a string. I'm going to save it. So don't worry about the size, don't worry about the length, we can use it in the rules as well. So it's just basically price competitive string. Here we go, so price competitive. So we've got that value in here, so let's just set that as an N, defaulted an N. And that means we can use whatever we want with this one, but I'm just going to put it as an N, so I know that it's price competitive no. So that's the default value of it. So we'll go into next here. These are the rules, sorry, this is the category matching here, which we've already done. Go over into here. We've got some rules we set up previously, so let's add a new rule. So we're going to put in benchmark price in here. It's greater than our price. We need to use square brackets for this one. And what that is, it's pulling in at an item level what the price of that item is and then evaluating that against what the benchmark price is. So effectively, if we are cheaper than, or the benchmark price is greater than our price, which effectively means we are cheaper than the benchmark price, then we're going to do a rule now to say price competitive. We're going to replace our N with a Y. And so this is a really simple way of filtering your best selling, or sorry, your most price competitive products using the benchmark data here. So it's just basically price competitive. We can replace our N, which everything is defaulted to N, replace it with a Y. For this merchant here, because it's a test merchant with no real data, is not going to ever change any of the N's to the Y's. But for your products, if there are other people selling your products and it's quite a competitive industry, then there's a very strong possibility that benchmark data will exist. Generally speaking, most clients have between sort of 40 and 70% benchmark data. So you're not always going to have everything's going to have a benchmark price attached to it. But at the same point though, it does mean that you're going to be able to pick up some items where you're not competitive, and what we can do now is we can actually filter those campaigns. So that's now set up to run. So next time this feed runs, we are, at the moment, we're going to benchmark price, benchmark data. Let's just go back to this here. Our benchmark price now is going to be N's for everything. No, it's not. Price competitive, wasn't it? Sorry. Price competitive. So the benchmark price is empty because there's nothing in here. So here's our price competitive data. Everything's an N, but that's to be expected. So let's go now and add that into our feed. So again, this is our setup for a partner feed. So we've got empty labels on 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to map this to our custom label 1. Price competitive. We can save these other 3 values for something to do later. So that data now is going to pull through into our price competitive label and custom label 1. Next, and this is now going to import the data, so that's now done. So we'll go back to our shopping campaign now. Let's go to our filtering again, so edit. So we're going to highlight the campaign we want to change, we want to edit it. We'll go to our inventory filter again. So custom label 0 is our classification of products. I'm going to add this as custom label 1 now. At the moment, everything's an N, but you could filter that on Ys if you obviously had the N, or rather, if you had some yeses in there, then that ultimately would mean that you can filter that campaign. So at the moment, it's all Ns anyway, but that's how you'd set that up. And you save it, and then that would automatically filter your products. So that's one way of filtering it. We can set up some other different ways of filtering the campaign shortly. So now we've got our campaign created. What we can do now is we're going to actually add some product level bids. So we're going to optimize and then reports products. We'll go into our shopping campaign. We've only created one campaign, which is our shopping snowboards one here. And you can change the date range. We're going to show active products, which means there's only products that we've got effectively in stock in the system at the moment. We're going to have the status, which is live or remove. You can remove products if you wanted to, but we don't tend to do anything with that. And we can also filter on top products. So we'll have a look at that top product selector in a minute. Let's just refresh this now. So this is our list of products. At the moment, everything's defaulted to 25p bids. So I know, or that, let's pretend that our oxygen snowboard is our best seller. So there's a few ways we can go about doing this. I'm going to manually bid this up anyway though. So for argument's sake, I don't want to bid 25p. This is our best seller. I want to bid 65p. So that's now set. So it goes blue because it needs to be synchronized. And let's do liquid as well. Liquid's our second best seller, let's say. So I'm going to bid that at 45p. So that's all done now. So those product level bids now have been entered and they will go into our shopping campaign. Likewise as well, if you just wanted to do things more in bulk, so you could do a filter, you could say, give me everything that's, I don't know, less than £200. I'm not sure there's anything in there. Let's say £1,000. Okay, these are all our items at less than £1,000 in value. I'm going to select them all. I'm going to bid them down. 25p is too much. I want to bid them down by 30%. So put minus 30%, selected rows, apply. It's taken 30% off, which is our bids now 18p. It's a really simple way of doing it. You could do things like items that are selling at the moment. This is obviously a lot of manual work, which isn't necessarily how a lot of customers work with this now. But you know, if you wanted to, and you were starting out, you haven't got any data at all, you're going to have to do some manual bidding because realistically, Google won't let you do any automation because it has absolutely no history to know what to do with your data. That's our product level bids in here. So the next thing we need to do, we need to think about setting some top products. And so the top products is a mechanism of filtering items in here. So you can do it through this screen itself, where you can actually manually mark them as top products. Or you can use some performance data, which we've got here. Obviously there's no data in here at the moment because this is a test account. But you can use performance information to set these top products. Or if you already know what your top products are, we can go into here and we can actually add them as rules. So go into rules and we go into here and we need to set these as top products. But the first thing we need to do before we go any further is we need to go into our feed and mark these top products as 0. So those currently are set to 0. So this effectively means when you import the feed, everything is going to be defaulted to 0. So they're all automatically going to be set as 0, which means they're not top products. So that's all done that way. So let's go and add them as through a rule. Let's just delete that. I was just playing with these earlier on. So let's go and add these. So in here you can do lots of different ways of filtering. So these are all the attributes on the feed that we're picking through. So I want to use SKU or unique ID. Let's go for unique ID. So if we go back to our top products page here, let's filter them all. So our best sellers are the liquid, that one there. Actually, I'm not going to tick them. I'm going to leave them unticked for now. So the liquid one. Oh, sorry, I'm in the way again. There we go. It's moved me out. Let's go there. So liquid. So that's our ID. I'm going to use an operator called in, and that really means it's a list. It's exact match list. And what that very simply goes in, and I'm going to put in our unique ID, which is obviously quite long. It's our Shopify ID. That one there. I'm going to do our liquid, I'm going to do our oxygen, so copy the whole lot again. So it's got a comma there now, so as you can see it's comma separated. Oops, further. So comma separators, go to the end again, there's another one. And let's do our hydrogen. Right, so we've got our 3 items in our little list using the in operator. If we just put contains, obviously none of those values will match. So let's just do in and mark top products, set value 1. So that's going to basically switch everything from a 0, which means a not top product, to a 1, which is a top product, save. So that's our nice little list here. You can see it a bit more obvious here. So you've got the Shopify ID there, Shopify ID, Shopify ID. Set top products 1, yes, done. Okay, and let's import our master feed. And that's actually, so when you make these changes, you need to run the master feed effectively, which means import the data, and that will run in the background, and that will basically import and set these top products for us and reprocess the data. So that's actually happened now. So that's literally done in a matter of seconds. Done. Let's go back to our products now. Optimize products. Actually, let's look in our top products report. They should be marked as top products now. There we go. Oops. So those 3 items are now marked as top products, which is great. You can manually do it this way. I quite like using the rules. There's loads of different ways of doing this. Another cool feature as well, which I use a lot for other customers, in our basket level data. Obviously there's nothing in here at the moment. You go to best sellers. There is nothing in here yet because obviously we haven't got any tracking information. But ordinarily you could filter on items that are selling on the website through the basket level data, and you mark them as top products as well that way, which is quite cool. So you can do both ways. So now we've got our top products set in the system. So we'll go back to our top products here and filter it. So these are our top 3 best selling snowboards, and we've marked them as top products. We need to add them to the partner feed now. We need to put them into a custom label. So we're going to highlight our feed again, going to edit. Let's move me out of the way a little bit. It's next. So we don't have the top products in the feed yet. So what we can do is we can use custom label 2. So we can get top products. Oops, too far. Top product. And that's now matched up. So we're going to end up with our category names on our custom label 1, which allows us to better, or rather quicker, optimizing the campaigns themselves to select the right products. We're going to use custom label 1 for the price competitive data, and then finally we're going to use the top products filter to actually push products into specific campaigns. So that now is our top products. We're going to go next, and that's going to import the products, and that's done. Okay, let's go to our shopping campaign. So I want to go into our shopping campaigns now, and I want to filter our best sellers and put them in their own separate campaign. We'll give them their own separate budget and be able to be optimizing them independently of our bog standard snowboards. So the first thing we need to do is we need to filter our snowboards campaign to take the best sellers out. So at the moment we've got filters on snowboards. These are non-competitive, and we're going to add custom label 2 now, which is our 3rd filter. We're going to add them as 0. Remember, 0 was non-best sellers and 1 was best sellers. So that's now custom label 0, save. So what that means is that the best sellers now aren't in that campaign anymore. They're going to be filtered out. So we're going to add a new campaign for it. Call it best sellers. Best selling snowboards. Get the spelling mistakes sorted. Be high. Bid them, or rather give budget 25. Let's give them bids at 45p. I'm not going to bother with the shared budget, just give it its own budget. Locations, let's just shortcut that to United Kingdom. Inventory filter, we'll go back to our custom labels now. So we're going to go custom label 0 is snowboards. Custom label 1, we're going to set that as no, because that's obviously everything is no. And then the final one will be custom label 2, we're going to do the ones. So to reiterate, we've got a filter on picking up just the snowboards. We're going to use custom label 1, which is everything's defaulted to N anyway, and then the only going to have the best sellers in here. We're going to bother with any negative keywords. Just delete the URL options. Save it. We're going to put that as our ad group there. Let's just copy. Let's copy our snowboards. Ad group snowboard. Done. So our best selling snowboards is in here now, as you can see. Let's just put them snowboards through. Filter our snowboards, do it by brand. They're all hydrogen vendors. Lovely. And then within there we've got our 3 best sellers. So the best sellers now are in a separate campaign with product level bids at 45p. Our existing snowboards have now got the best sellers have been removed. So as you can see, the hydrogen vendors, which were our best sellers, they're now 0 products in here. They've been removed. So that is our campaign settings for this now. So that's now set up for our best sellers using our 3 different custom labels in here. So what I would tend to do now that we've got our 2 campaigns set up, is look at some negative keywords. So we're going to snowboards now. Highlight that and we're going to edit. It's a negative keyword. So I'm going to add a keyword now, a negative keyword for used. Because we don't sell used products and there's going to be always people looking for used. Add up a phrase match. I'm going to add another one as second hand. And add another one for snowboard boots, because we're not selling, just as an example, we're not selling snowboard boots, we're just selling snowboarding. Snowboards themselves in this campaign. You can go through this if you wanted to and add negative keywords manually that way. So if you wanted to, you could import your own list of negative keywords if you wanted to. So you use a separate list that's out of the system. So go into here and get an edit. You can export the keywords you've got at the moment, which will give you the template in Excel. You can and then you can save all those keywords you add onto the manual list, and then you import them here. So you can import, select the feed itself, and import all those keywords for you to add them onto your list. I'm not going to do that now, but that's one way of doing it, that through there. Save. Okay, so now we've got our campaign set up, we've got the filtering in place, we're using some bidding. What we can do as well is we can also set some bidding algorithms for this as well. So let's go to optimize up here and go to settings and rules. And this here is our Google Shopping. So we can go in here and we can select what we do with a lot of this. So we've got some bid optimization here. So this is effectively a mechanism for upping bids and lowering bids and really kind of building your own algorithm that's going to bid for you, which will run every day. So let's just add one to start with now. So click on active. So I want to look at a cost of sale. The system works on cost of sale percentage. So if I put in here, so the cost of sale is greater than 0.15. What that means is it's 15% cost of sale. So that on a ROAS percent would be something like, what's 15? 15 would be around about 600. So 600 ROAS in terms of Google's way of doing things, or we work on cost of sale, which is a percentage of the value of the product. So anything that's got a cost of sale of greater than 15%, I want to lower bids, decrease bids, and I want to decrease bids by 20%. And I'm going to put a minimum bid in here of 10p, and I want to do that every 7 days. This is a very sophisticated way of bidding your products and building algorithms that's going to take care of 80 to 90% of the bids for you. So every 7 days, our system is going to look at any products that have a cost of sale greater than 15%, and it's going to take them down by 20% until they've reached 10p bids, and so it will keep them static at 10p from then on. So that is a way of bidding down items that are obviously spending too much money but are selling. You know, there needs to be a cost of sale. So the cost of sale obviously would imply that the products have sold. So that's a really simple way of running the rule. Okay, now our campaigns are created. So we've got the separation between the best sellers and the non-best sellers in here. So we can now create some other rules now that's going to implement some more custom labels in here. So if we go back to our partner feed, let's go see what custom labels we've got empty at the moment. So at the moment we've got custom label 3 and custom label 4. So those two are empty, we're not actually using them at the moment, so we can do something with them. So let's use custom label 3. So I'm going to create some rules now that's going to put some values into our custom label 3, which we can then use to filter our campaigns even further. So the place to go for this one is automate, settings and rules. I'm going to set our shopping campaigns, and let's go to shopping optimization. So I'm going to write a new rule now. So I'm going to say something to the effect of let's look at cost of sale. So the system works on cost of sale, which is slightly different to ROAS. It's just the inverse of the way the calculation is calculated. So everything we do is done a percentage of the value of the product. So that cost of sales effectively is, if you've got a £100 item and it's cost you £10 to sell it, that cost of sale is 10%. You spent 10% of the value of the item. Simple as that. So if you're thinking about your margins, so let's say, for example, you have a 20% margin. I don't really want to be bidding on items which are realistically at or thereabouts my margin, because otherwise there's no point selling it. You're basically being a busy fool. So let's say I'm going to set a cost of sale target of 18%. So once a product has gone 18% or higher, I don't really want to be doing much with that. I don't want to be bidding on it. I don't want to be getting much traffic on it because it's just costing me too much money and it's not profitable for me. So if I'm going to set the cost of sale target 18%, I'm going to now set custom label 3. Remember, that was our empty field. I'm going to set a value as poor performance. You can call it whatever you want, just as long as you keep it consistent. So I'm going to say anything that's custom label, that's right, anything that's got a cost of sale rather of 18% or higher, it's greater than, I'm going to mark it all as a poor performance product. Done. So that's now our first rule that's going to run. Let's add another rule now. So click cost. I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive with this one. So I'm going to set this to active again. So I'm going to put in price, using square brackets, price times by 0.15. And so that means anything that has spent more than 15% of the product price, so again, go back to my margin at 20%, I don't really want to be spending 20% of my a product's margin on clicks. And the thing to bear in mind in here is we need to add, and this is critical, sales count is equal to 0. So this rule is going to say anything that isn't selling but has spent too much money for how much I'm willing to spend on it, I'm going to now mark these items as poor performers as well. So what we're doing now is we're effectively saying, I want to bid everything down, or rather I want to put everything into a separate campaign when it's spent too much money and their sales count, but when they're not selling and they're spending too much money. The other thing to also add, which is potentially another option as well, is a click count. So if normally you get a 2% click through, 2% conversion rate, I want to bid down anything that's realistically under a 2% conversion rate. If it's sold after 50 clicks, then it obviously would be a 2% conversion rate. I mean, you could do whatever you want with this. You could say, I only want items, they need to have a minimum of 30 clicks, for argument's sake. Let's just put 30 clicks. Because you could have low value items, which when someone buys something, they buy a large quantity of them. And the problem with using click cost times by the price, so the price of the item could be really low value, but obviously people buy more than one of them. So things like, let's say, light bulbs or, I don't know, staples, God knows. So yeah, people that buy more than one of them. So I'm going to add a caveat to it needs to have more than 30 clicks as well. So for all of these things to be true, then it will mark those products as poor performers. So this now is allowing us to create a mechanism for moving products, or rather marking them as poor performers when these two rules are true. So if we go back to our feed again, we're going to put a default value in here because we want everything to have this rule until it's changed. So you can use this. I tend to use this as a mechanism for making sure products stay in the campaign, and you can push products back into using this label, which I'll show you in a second. So this allows you to have everything as a catch-all at the moment. Everything is going to be marked as shopping. You can PMax, whatever you want in there. It's just a mechanism that I've been able to filter the campaigns based on the custom label. So that I can mark everything as shopping. And so going back to our rules over here, when any of these two are true, it's going to basically switch from shopping to poor performance. The other thing to bear in mind with this as well is that when a product has a poor performance, it's going to mark it as a poor performer. But the problem is that sometimes those items, they can go into a poor performance campaign and all of a sudden they have a couple more sales in there, the cost of sales suddenly has gone from being poor to actually really good. So if we change this now to cost of sale. Cost of sale is greater than, oh sorry, is less than even, less than or equal to 15%. I'm going to put these products back in to shopping. So if you follow the logic, what's going on is we're going to pull products out of our main campaigns, put them into a separate campaign, probably with lower bids or low automated bids, or I suppose aiming for a higher ROAS in Google. So effectively it's optimizing these campaigns. So if you've got tens of thousands of products, this is a way to optimize your campaigns without having to manually going through it all, though, which is an absolute pain. So this is going to automate it for you, though. So if you think about the logic behind what's going on, initially it's going to be working quite well. And so it's going to pull products out of a campaign which is just spending too much money or the cost of sales too high. It optimizes those campaigns for you. But the other way of looking at this as well is that when we put those products and pull them out into our poor performers campaign, what we want to be able to do is when things start performing quite well again, so price could have changed on them, or other retailers could have sold out of them, or you're the only one selling them, so therefore you're going to get the sales in these items. What you want to be doing is you want to push those products back into your shopping campaign, which is really what we're going to be doing here. So if the cost of sale is less than or equal to 15%, then it's going to put them into shopping. But the critical thing now as well is you've got to make sure that you've had a sale is greater than 0. So if you think about this logically, if we ran this rule, all those products that have been getting loads of traffic and potentially wasting money, if I didn't add the sales counts greater than 0, those products which would automatically be pulled out of our shopping campaign, put into our poor performance campaign, would automatically go back into shopping. So you think about it, it's just going to be this cyclical nature of products going out of the campaign and back into the campaign. So this here allows us to be able to filter those products that are selling and have a good performance. You do exactly the same for PMax as well. It's just shopping is what we just created for those shopping campaigns. So the PMax campaigns would work exactly the same premise as well. You could put some optimization rules in there to add custom labels into your feed. Again, if you think about this, we can do any of our custom labels as well. So if we can edit that one, I suppose it's not just the custom labels. You could do all kinds of things to the feed. Quite frankly, you could I don't know what have other customers been doing. We've been creating a campaign filtering based on price. So you could use this rules here. So anything less than £100 in value, you can set the price filter on the custom label to under 100 or over 100. There's a whole bunch of stuff we can do with this there, but if you think about all the values in here as well, so you can use average CPC, you can use click count, you can use conversion rate, you can also do things like when a price has changed price as well, when the days since you changed price. Honestly, there is so much in, as you can see, all these different values in here that you can use, or I suppose data points that you can use to optimize the campaigns. Anyway, so that is our very simplistic way of doing this. The other thing as well, which I've seen a lot of success with, and beyond just using the performance data, we can also look at how we can filter these products based on impression data. So I tend to do this as well. So items that have less than 250 impressions. I also want to add custom label 3. Low impressions. And this is really important. So anything that has less than 250 impressions, I suppose, and also isn't selling. It's unlikely, but you might get odd items. Is less than, is equal to 0. So this rule here is primarily focused at pushing products into a new campaign using our custom label 3 low impressions. So I could create another campaign now. I could be really aggressive on how we're actually approaching the bidding for these items. So I could manually bid these items, or I could use a really low ROAS target. And the point really is that Google's, particularly on PMax, is primarily a PMax targeted rule here. The point in PMax is that it's really good at pushing those products that it knows are going to convert for you, though. And what ends up happening over 6-12 months is the range of products that get any meaningful traffic goes from probably something like 30-40% down to something like 10 or 15%. And the reality is that you end up with 80, sometimes 90% of your feed that gets almost no impressions and no clicks. So we could also add in here as well, you know, a click filter as well. So anything that has less than 10 clicks, for argument's sake. And what that's going to do is going to put those products into a low impressions campaign. So if I save that now, so what's going to be happening over the last, I didn't mention this, but the date range is really critical with this as well, though. So the date range is going to be looking over the last 90 days worth of data. If you've got lots of data and you get lots of traffic, I would say 30 days is probably the most optimum way of doing this. So 30 days, I'm going to save that now. It's going to we're going to look back over the last 30 days worth of data, and it's going to apply these rules to every product every day. And it works on a hierarchy as well. It runs this rule first, and if that doesn't apply to a product, so every item in the feed, these rules will be applied on. And as soon as it finds an item where this rule is effectively is true, it moves on to the next product. It applies that rule, moves on to the next product. So almost think of it more like a filter. So it's pulling out all the products that aren't performing very well, put them into a separate campaign. It's also going to put products back into a campaign, or rather it's going to change the custom label. That's more specifically what's happening. And it's going to put those products back into the other campaign where they were on the shopping campaign, as we did here, if the performance is good. And more importantly, the impression count is also going to run as well, and it's going to push those products out of our shopping campaign into our low impression campaign. So what you could potentially end up happening is you'll have maybe 3 separate campaigns. So one would be just your core products that are doing quite well. Obviously they will be, because you know, the rules are running to pull the products out of there. Give a poor performance campaign where you probably have a ROAS target which is lower than your top products effectively. And then you can have an impression, a low impression count campaign as well, and that's going to allow you to be able to be really aggressive with the bids on those items, because potentially they're just not getting any traffic at all. And then you could end up with a hybrid with some of this as well. If you go back to our top products report, there's a strong possibility that potentially some of these top products, again, if you've got more than 3, if you've got, I don't know, let's say 500 marked, not all 500 are going to constantly be getting traffic. And so you could end up having another campaign as well, where you could have items that are top products but having a low impression count. And that is the really, really important part to focus on, because if you know they're good sellers, for whatever reason Google isn't advertising them, you can either do one or two things. You can either change the ROAS target on them, if you're using automated bidding, or if you do manual bidding, you can bid them up quite aggressively. Or what you could do is put them into a totally separate campaign using that campaign filtering as we've got here. So impression count is less than 250. Okay, so that's our rules now in place and ready to rock and roll. Just to reiterate, what's happening is we're creating a rule that's pulling out products that aren't performing very well. So that's the top 2 rules here. Then we're putting another rule in place where the cost of sale is doing really good and the cost of sale is acceptable and is under our target. We're going to allow those products to go back into our main shopping campaign. So we're trying to pull products out of our poor performance campaign, put them into our main one. And the final one would be to have a impression count campaign where we're going to pull out all the items that are just not getting much visibility in Google and put them in their own separate campaign and being a bit more aggressive with them. Like I said before, you can use these rules exactly the same way on PMax, and you can end up with a bit of a hybrid approach where you can use shopping for some of the low impression products when you get a bit more visibility on them, and then push them, the good sellers, into PMax. You could do all kinds of things really. You can hybridize all of this and use the custom labels, which obviously would go into the feed, and they can be both used in PMax and shopping. So it's quite a clever way of doing things really. So the final part of this would be to look at how we can go about adding some automation onto these campaigns. The problem with automation on shopping specifically is that it relies on existing data to be there. Realistically, you're looking at probably 20 conversions as a minimum level. We can do this now. So I'm going to go into here and I'm going to go AdWords, shared bidding strategies. It's going to add a bidding strategy, return on ad spend. I'm not even sure these other ones work anymore, but let's just call it 15% COS bestsellers. So that'd be our 666, which I think is 15% cost of sale. Save. And so that's our 15% cost of sale. That's now been pushed to Google. So that now has been created a bid strategy in our Google Ads account. So we need to implement that now. So we're going to go on to, let's just stay on this page here, go to shopping campaigns. Let's refresh the page to pull them through. These are best sellers in here now, so I'm going to go to edit and I'm going to go to our bidding strategy. At the moment it's on manual bid, but let's just go to target ROAS, and there's our campaign strategy just created there. Save. I'm going to save that again. And so that now has gone from no bidding strategy onto our 15% cost of sale. And we'll get the other snowboards now. Go back to our bidding strategies again. Add a new one. Return on ad spend. That's at 10% ROAS, or cost of sale, should I say. Snowboards. Others. Put 1,000, which is 10% cost of sale. We'll synchronise that into Google as well. So that's done. Now go back to our shopping campaign. Go back to our snowboards. Edit. Bid strategy. You can take it onto target ROAS. There's our 10% there. Save, update, save. Okay, so the one thing to be acutely aware of is that if I try and synchronise this campaign now, which I'm going to do anyway, so all these changes have been made, I'm going to synchronise the shopping campaigns. They're all done. Google's going to mark them as need synchronising because there's no performance data. So it will reject the bidding strategy on the campaign because there's no data in there. So they can't apply bidding strategy when there isn't any performance data. So that's the other thing to bear in mind with this. So you need probably 20, ideally 30 conversions over the last 30 days for Google to actually let you use the bidding strategy. So that's how we go about setting the campaigns. If you wanted to, you could go into here and look at the actual negative the keyword list. So the campaign here you want to analyze, we'll go to view, action, and then go to analyze keywords. There's nothing in here at the moment because there's nothing to work from, but for argument's sake, there was 500 keywords in here. You could filter them, you could do filter on certain keywords, or you could easily select them and then add as negative, and it's going to add them as a negative keyword. So it's quite a cool little tool to do that with. The final part of this now would be to think about how we're actually utilising the data within Google itself. So most customers we work with have their own tracking, so they've got probably ads tracking enabled. The Onefeed tracking allows us to be able to share data back up to Google though. So the way to do that would be go into your icon here, we'll go into our little cog, we'll go to conversions, and we can actually upload our conversions here. So Onefeed, we're going to change our Google source to the Onefeed, so to the Google ads data. And we're going to save that as uploading conversions. If you also wanted to use our tracking and remove VAT off of your items, so you are a B2B seller or really just want to get more accurate data, you can subtract VAT off of your values here, but I'm going to leave that for none for now. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to tell our system to upload our conversion data to Google. I'm going to save that now. It's all done. So the Onefeed tracking allows us to be able to be that independent source of tracking information. And so the way that we upload the conversions into Google is done on the G-CLIDs. So we track when every time someone clicks from Google onto your website, our tracking picks up that G-CLID, we store it in our database, and when someone makes a purchase, we link the two G-CLIDs together, and then the G-CLID itself is a Google Click ID. And that Google Click ID, we can upload that data back to Google, and we call that an offline conversion. And we can do the same for Bing as well. So realistically, what's happening is we can unify all the data. We can stop relying on GA4 and Google Ads tracking. The main reason we do that though is because our data is a lot more transparent, because exactly what's going on with it. But I'll cover all the data and the analysis in another video. But that for now kind of covers how we go about setting up the campaigns and and optimising it that way. Thank you.